Time now for 1 full hour of nitro-fueled NHRA talk. It's The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts with Marty Huff and 10-time NHRA winner Doug Herbert. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, here's your hosts, Doug and Marty.
This is The Straight Line on drag racing. Thanks for being here for our 1 hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. Today we talk with one of the all-time legends of drag racing, the Mongoose, Tom McEwen. 2014 Epping Funny Car winner Ron Capps will be here, and we'll catch up with former U.S. Nationals winner Richie Crampton. We're in the beams and set to launch another edition of The Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast, around the world, you are on MRN.com, and this is The Straight Line, along with 4-time IHRA Top Fuel Champion, 10-time NHRA National Event winner Doug Herbert. I am Marty Huff, and we are heading to New England Dragway this weekend, Epping, New Hampshire, where you, my friend, have made a lot of laps down that place.
I've had some fun there. Yeah, I know, won the race in 92, had a crash there in 93, and then we won the race again in 98 and set a national record at the time. So I've had some good success there. I think there might have been one other good one in between there, but they all run in together. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the thing is, it's a fast track. It's a sea-level track. It's a fast track. It's an older facility, but the track service is good. The cars will run fast there. The cool, coast breeze, or not breeze, but conditions come in the evening, and it makes it a fast track. So, it's hard to say what the weather will be, but hopefully they'll be fast.
In doing some research, I was not aware. I mean, when you think New Hampshire, you're thinking like mountains and snow and a lot of stuff that goes on in the mountains. It's 90 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about under 100 feet. Man, there's a lot of oxygen, and then
there's a lot of trees around there.
Right.
There's a little Fuller. What's our name?
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Fuller's a big, roundy round guy. Raced at that little dirt track right next door to the Epping Dragway. So we went over there when we had a break school up there last year and had to check out his old stomping grounds. And so there's a lot of racing up there.
Yeah.
The thing that people don't realize is that's only about a 40-mile drive from Boston north to Epping, New Hampshire. So it's a pretty scenic area. It's a neat place. People are fun up there. Some great food. And this weekend, some good racing. Yeah,
and ravenous racing fans. And no matter whether they're going in the straight line or they're turning left or road courses or whatever, when they brought NHRA racing back to Epping and New England Dragway a couple years ago, back in 2013, they were hanging from the rafters. And the people are just going crazy over this, and it really hasn't changed ever since. I mean,
right.
They're even putting more people in there because they've upgraded the facilities a little bit. But the people are great. Food's really good too. So if you can't.
Food's good. It's fun,
really
and the
lose.
cars are going to go fast. That's one thing you can count on there. And the area, Boston and all that New England area up there is pretty cool. So. I'm looking forward to some good runs this weekend. And coming off of last weekend in Topeka, the cars are fast. They have some speeds figured out now with the Doug Clutter running over 331 miles an hour. And then, of course, Matt Hagan running 335 miles an hour last weekend at Topeka, which is not necessarily known for the best runs in the world.
Yeah.
Never know what's going to happen. But then we did get that notice about the NHRA changing the rev limiters on the funny cars. We'll have to ask Ron Capps about that a little bit later and what effect that might have on them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Ron Capps will come up a little bit later on in the program. He's up right now doing a lot of Napa appearances, and so we're going to stop him right in the middle of one of his Napa appearances to talk with us. So we appreciate Ron Capps for being with us. Richie Crampton will also be here. He's headed up to New England, and the first of 4 in a row. We'll talk to him about his schedule getting really busy here over the next month or so, and it's our honor and our pleasure to be able to talk to one of the all-time legends of drag racing. Tom the Mongoose McEwen will be here. He's going to be Grand Marshal at Chicagoland at Route 66 Dragway coming up a little bit later on in their event in July 7th through the 10th. But it's always really cool to catch up with the Mongoose.
Yeah, McEwen is such a cool guy, and we've got we've had Prudhomme on the show, and we've had McEwen on the show at least one other time.
Yeah.
And he's a good man. He's a good guy. He's been a heck of a promoter, and I don't think Prudhomme would. Well, you'd have to pry it out of Prudhomme probably, but McEwen is the big part of the reason why Don the Snake Prudhomme got so popular. McEwen promoted that pair, the Snake and the Mongoose. Everybody, at least, my age, our age generation, we had a Snake and Mongoose Mattel Hot Wheels set when we were kids.
Absolutely.
And, McEwen was really the driving force behind that and kind of the marketing and all that. I mean, McEwen, man, he has done some racing over the years. So really, really neat to have Tom on the show today.
Yeah, and we'll ask him, a lot about his career, and then after his career, obviously, he's done a lot. Had a movie made about him. He and Don Prudhomme here, a movie that just came out a couple of years ago that was highly successful. Yeah. And it'd be kind of interesting to see what his thoughts are about the movie itself and some of the scenes that played out, and whether they've followed the lines of reality and truth, or did they kind of have to peel off that a little bit?
Well, it's got to be a little bit of Hollywood.
It's Hollywood, sure.
Their story was pretty darn interesting, though, so I don't think they had they probably didn't have to embellish a whole lot on it to make it to make it pretty neat. But I did go see the show right over here in Concord at the Concord Mills. We had a little deal over there, so really excited to have McEwen on the show.
Yep, and so we're ready to hit it for another great edition of The Straight Line. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll talk to Ron Capps. Richie Crampton will be here, as well as the Mongoose, Tom McEwen. Thanks for being here on MRN.com. This is The Straight Line, and when we come back, we will talk to the Mongoose himself, Tom McEwen.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More right after this.
If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Slingin' Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand.
The grill is hot and the cooler is cold at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. Join us each weekend as your host and head chef Rob Tanner serves up the hottest hits and country music, and Steve Post drops by with NASCAR news straight from the sport's top garages and shops. We have 2 hours of country music at the speed of sound, getting you ready for NASCAR racing. Rev up your weekend at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA.
It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now here's Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Coming up July 7th through the 10th at Route 66 Raceway, Chicagoland in Joliet, Illinois. That is where the Chicagoland Nationals and the Route 66 Nationals will be going on. And one of the Grand Marshals is on the telephone line with us right now. We know him as the Mongoose. Tom McEwen joins us. Tom, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Tom McEwen, man, so good to hear from you and good to talk to you. Over the years, thinking about some of my first trips to the drag races and watching you race at Orange County and at Pomona, do you ever miss the drag racing? You were one of the biggest all-time heroes, and do you ever miss that?
Well, I love the driving and the competing. I got tired of being on the road for 45 years. And,
yep.
I started going to the drags in 1953 at Santa Ana, which is Orange County, John Wayne Airport now. And taking my mother's 53 Oldsmobile out there, running 70 or 80 miles. That's where it all started. And then I've driven everything up to 300 miles an hour over the years and traveled and done all kinds of stuff. So I loved what I did, but I got tired of the, airports and fast food and putting up with the crew guys and all that. I love driving the cars, but once you do it, you understand.
Tom, tell us about the movie. The last time we had you on the show was right when they were coming out with the Snake and Mongoose movie, and it seemed like, from what I saw, that was a pretty accurate portrayal. Tell us your look on the movie, and also about your cameo appearance in the movie, and just the whole thing in general with that.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of fun. Robin Brody and her husband are the ones that came up with the idea and did all the stuff, and about 3 years ago, and then they came to Prudhomme and I, and they got Alan Paradise, who was writing a script, and they came to us and wanted to know what we thought about doing it. And we thought, we read everything, sounded okay to us, so we got involved and started going. They had 28 days of shooting for about $4 million, and
wow.
Don and I went to quite a few of the shoots just to watch and be there in case they needed some advice or wanted to ask us a question. And I think it's about 85% correct, and I think they did a good job. There wasn't very many. The last drag race movie was, I think, Shirley's movie about 30 years ago or something, and so I think overall it was okay.
Yeah,
Richard,
I enjoyed it.
Richard Blake played you. Looking back on it now, were you pleased with his role as Tom McEwen?
Yeah, I thought Richard did a good job. I thought both guys did good. Richard came and spent about a month with me and followed me around and went to dinner with us and went to garages and talked to all the guys and sat in the race cars and tried to mimic me as best he could. And I thought he did a good job.
Hey, Tom, I was just bringing Marty up to speed a little bit ago. He did not remember the Mobil 1, the car, the top fuel car that you raced in the early 90s with Jack Clark. And because he asked me, "Did you ever race McEwen?" I go, "Yeah, McEwen whipped my butt." But that was a pretty big deal when you put that whole team and everything back together in '91. And you guys went out and had some success. I remember winning Englishtown and I think a couple other races.
Yeah, we had a good time. I had fun with Jack. He's a big champion baseball player guy, and decided he wanted to go racing. So we did that Mobil 1 deal, first class thing. But don't sell yourself short. You were, in your day when you were racing, you were a hell of a competitor. You won a lot of races, beat a lot of people. So don't sell your short on that, buddy.
Well, it was fun racing you. That was fun. Tom, tell us what you're doing to keep busy these days. I know you got the hobby shop and some different stuff, and doing the magazine stuff. Tell us a little bit about what your day's like these nowadays.
Well, and I kind of retired, or they got rid of me years ago. I guess they thought I was too old to drive anymore. And I didn't want to be Prudhomme and have a team because he loved going on the road, and I had enough of it. So I was kind of semi-retired, and these people came to me that did magazines. And that's been 20 years ago, if you can believe it. And I worked for Beckett Publishing out of Dallas. We have a Yorba Linda office, which is right next door to John Force's place here. And we've got about 60 titles, and I'm kind of in charge of Drag Racer magazine that's 20 years old now, and kind of keeps me in the game and go places. And this year, is the 50th year of the funny cars, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to Chicago in July at Route 66 race. Prudhomme and I are going to go back there and have some fun at the track, see all our friends, and enjoy that. Then I'm going to go to Indy in September for the Nationals there. So got a few trips planned this year and see some friends and enjoy it and relive a little bit.
Don, tell us how this deal all came together to be the Grand Marshal along with Prudhomme for the Route 66 Nationals coming up July 7th through 10th.
Well, the NHRA guys who would work with them, on the PR and everything, and called me and wanted to know if I was interested. Last year we did 4 or 5 events and wanted to know if I was still interested in traveling. And I said, "What have you got in mind?" They said, "Well, Route 66 would like to have you and Don there off the movie, and we hadn't been there in quite a while. So I said, man, sounds all right to me if Don's up for it. So and he was. So we're been talking, doing press over the phone and writers and stuff, and looking forward to have a lot of friends live in Chicago and in that area, and I raced around there a lot. So not looking forward to the lines at the airport, but other than that, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Tom, tell us about what would some of your favorite race cars over the years?
Yeah.
You know, NHRA's got this thing now with your favorite funny cars, and what are some of couple of your favorite cars over the years?
Boy, that'd be hard to pick.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. I mean, I go way back to Gene Adams, the Shark car, beating Garlitz at Bakersfield, winning Bakersfield in '73 with the rear engine Hot Wheel dragster. The Hot Wheel funny cars from '70 to '73. We won Lion, beat Prudhomme in the final at Lion's last drag race, and won the big PDA race at Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I had a lot of fun with a lot of cars. Won Indy in '78 with the English leather Corvette. It just goes on and on. There was a lot of moments. I'd lost my son Jamie 2 weeks prior to Indy in '78, and I wasn't going to go. And then Prudhomme talked us into going and said, hey, you're not going to let me win another race, are you? So we went, we lucked out and won the race. And so there's a lot of memories in drag racing over the years, and we've lost a lot of friends, for one reason or the other. But just like yourself, we met a lot of nice people around the country, and it's been a good sport for me.
Tom, there's not a lot of business people that are really good drag racers, and there's not a lot of really good drag racers who are great businessmen. Maybe the guy to my right, maybe an exception. You would be an exception to that. What was it about the business end that really lit a fire under you? Because you were one of the guys that put drag racing, or at least helped take drag racing to another level through your business ventures.
Well, when we started out, we were doing it as a hobby, like all of us. We had jobs, and we'd go to the race on the weekends and all that. And we never had enough money to really do it, the way you always dream about doing it. And when all through the '60s and everything, we were racing, I was driving for other people, and I just always thought, man, it would sure be nice if we could get some sponsorship, because in those days, the sponsorships that we had were, free spark plugs or free oil, or wasn't much free stuff and no money. And in the '60s, I met a couple of guys from McKesson Robbins Pharmaceutical, and I got a Tyran Gold Spot dragster deal for $1,000 a year, which at that time I thought was big money, and it really helped. And then just kept going. Then my kids had the little Hot Wheel cars back in the '60s. I think they started in '65. And I just got an idea that with the Mongoose and Snake thing was just beginning to get big there with the animals. And I went to Mattel with an idea about putting the animal Mongoose Snake stuff on the Hot Wheel cars, and they seemed to like the idea. So we went back, and the movie tells quite a bit how it went from there on. And that was the first non-automotive sponsorship type stuff that brought money, and we were able to get big trucks and uniforms. And I think the whole world of racing learned a little bit about how to go about helping sponsorship and everything, and it's worked ever since, and it's helped pay our way.
Yeah, well, number 16 on the NHRA top 50 all-time list, Tom Mongoose McEwen. You're one of my top heroes too, and can't thank you enough for being my friend over the years, and for coming to our breaks dinner that we had at Pomona a few years ago. Just can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Well, Doug, I appreciate that, and I knew your kids, and I've lost two, and you've lost two, and no father needs to go through what we've been through, and until you've been there in somebody else's shoes, you don't know. But I know that you're trying to help with your brakes thing and all your stuff, so I appreciate what you do, and you've been a good friend, and I knew your dad and everybody, so it's been a fun ride, kid.
Yep, you got it.
Tom McEwen, we are looking forward to you being the Grand Marshal along with Don Prudhomme at Route 66 Raceway coming up July 7th through the 10th, and you can go to Route 66 Raceway.com for ticket information. Tom McEwen, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Route 66.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I know a lot of my friends and people love listening to your show. And call me anytime, okay?
Will do.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, Tom, where would people go to find out about your hobby shop and all the stuff that you've got going on there now?
Oh, Doug, they could just pull up Prestige Hobbies in Anaheim, California. And it's on Beach Boulevard in Anaheim, California. It's been there for 40 years. And, they have all kinds of collectible T-shirts, die cast, all that kind of stuff there. So somebody's interested, they can kind of look us up on there.
Prestige Hobbies. There you go. Tom the Mongoose McEwen. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tom McEwen joining us here on the Straight Line. And when we return, we will talk to former U.S. Nationals winner Richie Crampton. Joins us next.
This is The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More coming up right after this.
If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo-Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Motor Racing Network has a way for you to reach out and express your thoughts and opinions on NASCAR. It's the MRN Fan Forum Hotline.
Wondering what's the first thing you tend to
I was curious about those new rules from what I heard.
Call in 844-4-ASK-MRN. Got a question or comment for a driver or MRN personality? 844-4-ASK-MRN.
You guys keep it on. Let's see you guys next
It's
weekend.
the Fan Forum Hotline, your connection to the sport of NASCAR.
NASCAR K&N Pro Series East opened up, and it was Todd Gilliland picking up the race win.
This is NASCAR Coast to Coast.
How do you keep it all in perspective? You're a 15-year-old. You got to be able to enjoy things at the age of 15 other than racing.
Yes, my mom makes sure that I keep my grades up. It makes it a lot less stressful to miss school because you can just do it online and then hand it in next day at school. Teachers still don't like me very much because I still have to miss quite a bit of school. They understand it, and they've got my back.
NASCAR Coast to Coast every Wednesday at noon at MRN.com. Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Huge thanks to the Mongoose, Tom McEwen, for joining us on the Straight Line. He will be the Grand Marshal along with Don Perdome at the Route 66 Nationals at Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, coming up July the 7th through the 10th. It really going to be, that'll be a fun, that's always a fun race. It's a great race, one that you've won, and and then to have those two there as the grand marshals, and they'll be there, and just.
I look around, fantastic. I see Perdome as at Indy 500. I mean, he's all over the place. He's not quit traveling at all. I don't think he likes staying at home. And you'd think he lives in basically right outside of San Diego, California. You'd think that he'd want to stay home, but he likes going to the races and doing what he does. But McEwen likes doing his thing. What a neat deal to have McEwen on the show. And he is, as we've talked about it, we've had legends on the show. McEwen's a legend, so that was really neat, and happy to have a neat relationship with him over the years.
Just a fantastic individual. I mean, let's set aside the whole legend thing, and he's been there, done that. But I mean, when you're just talking about people, Tom McEwen is just cool.
Yep,
he's
pretty cool.
Just a great guy. And a guy that's headed up to Epping, New Hampshire this weekend. First of 4 in a row. Get ready, guys, because it's going to be a long stretch here over the next month or so. He is the driver of the Lucas Oil Dragster for Morgan Lucas Racing. Richie Crampton joins us. Richie, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How about you?
We are doing good. We're getting ready. We're not going to be as busy as you over the next 4 weeks.
That's a fact.
Let us know, cup it up to 7th in points. You're kind of cruising along, but with Aaron Brooks and that team that you guys haven't showed your potential quite yet this year.
No, for sure. It's been a bit of a rough start to 2016. It kind of looks like I might have skipped over that sophomore slump, and it's catching up with me here in my third season. But no, in all honesty, we were testing a lot earlier in the season and, working through new batches of clutch discs and all that good stuff, which you know of there, Doug. So I think we really turned a corner in Atlanta. The second round in Atlanta, we actually lost the supercharger belt, so I think that race didn't really even show our true potential. And then, of course, we got picked off there, by smoking the tires in the semifinal in Topeka. But in general, the race car's going down the track, and it's just really exciting for the Lucas Oil team to be pointed back in the right direction. Hovering around the bottom half of that top 10 isn't where we want to be.
Can we safely say, Richie, that you're obviously probably not where you want to be, but also you're not in a big panic or a big rush right now, because once we get to Indy, that's where things get real. Right now is probably a time to start looking at clutch discs and in different ways to possibly getting down the racetrack. Is that true?
Yeah, we're not super stressed out about where we are in the top 10, because when you got them last six races that we go to the countdown format, they're the ones that really count. And we saw Robert Hyatt win from the 10th position a few years back, so it can totally be done from anywhere within the top 10 if you get your act together in them last six. But what we are keeping our eye on is the amount of available positions in that $100,000 Tracks to Shootout at Indy that we want to be a part of again. And I was a runner-up in that in 2014, and obviously you got to be one of the first 7 event winners for the season, and then to stake a claim in there or be voted in as that wild card number 8. So we're keeping our eye on that. We definitely want to get back in the winner's circle again, but it's just like a lot of things, as much as you wish for it and want to do it, it doesn't necessarily always happen, and we know how hard this Mello Yello series is. So we're just going to keep working, and I think the results will come.
Hey, Richie, with 7 career Top Fuel NHRA wins and being the 2014 NHRA Rookie of the Year, did you have any idea when you came to work for Morgan Lucas back in 2007 that you were going to end up in such a pretty darn good spot?
No, right? Not at all. I talked about it a lot over the last few years, the fact that I made the jump from Australia and come over here to work in the NHRA. I kind of lived and eat and slept drag racing in Australia, and then to be able to come over here and work on a competitive team was really, I felt, where I'd kind of got to the highest point that I'd get to, and I was content. I loved it. I love working on these race cars and being around them and traveling all over the country to our 24 events, and to go one step further and then be allowed to get my Top Fuel license, to be given that opportunity was huge. And then, of course, when Morgan allowed me to fill his shoes and take over the reins was really a dream come true. So, no, I never believed I'd be in the position I'm in. 7-0 in final rounds. I've won Indy. I mean, I'm just so spoiled and so lucky to get to reap the rewards of driving for a team that Morgan has basically hand built over the past 12 years or 11 years of its existence. And I really, sometimes I don't feel like I deserve to be in the position I'm in, but I'm trying to take the ball and run with it, and try to keep my end of the bargain up.
Let's go back to Topeka, where you and Aaron Brooks, were you thinking record? I mean, the Top Fuel record did go down for ET, and Brittany Force broke that. And I know that Aaron Brooks is one of those guys that ain't scared to tune up a dragster. So was that the mentality going to the line in E2 and trying to get that record?
I'm sure it was. I've got a pretty good habit of not asking what intending on having our race car run, but when the weather's cool like that, as with most race car drivers, you don't even need to ask your crew chief. You know it's going to either fly or you're going to, possibly smoke the tires trying. But, being that we were the only car since Brainerd of last year to run in the 360s, up until Brittany did it in Topeka that same weekend we're talking about, I had every bit of confidence that, not only was my existing track record in Kansas going to get beaten, but possibly we could dip back into the 360s again and, end up sitting number 1. And obviously it didn't work out for us, and Alan Johnson and Brian Houston got that car of Brittany's flying there. She was well ahead of the field with that 367 of hers. So, Yeah, it's fun, man. It's a great position to be in when you know you've got one of the best race cars that can set those, national record style runs out on the table every now and then. And I'm just really excited, and I hope that conversely we've got our hot track race car back for this next fall, because I don't think we're going to see a lot of 50 and 60 degree weather coming up here in the next couple months.
Hey, Richie, you just said, I mean, you guys, when it comes down to being able to run those numbers, and even on those hot tracks, you got them pretty good on the hot tracks. But Aaron seems to be able to get you dialed in and get you down those tracks, and but when the big numbers get thrown out, he's always right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it. I mean, I've had the luxury of working as a crew member on teams for several other crew chiefs, and for someone as young as Aaron, in his early 40s, that's relatively young. I'd say for an NHRA top fuel crew chief, he's just so intelligent, and he knows what these cars like, and it's really cool to have a crew chief like that. So yeah, when you get to be one of those guys that no one wants to race when the weather is cool, because they know that my crew chief is one of these people that's just going to lay the smack down. It's pretty neat. So,
what are you looking forward to carrying out the rest of this year? Obviously, you're going to be in the top 10 going into Indy, and you won Indy before in the final 6 races, and then it comes down to just being able to put those wins together.
Yeah, really, I'm just looking forward to, being competitive. I mean, I still need to get better on the Christmas tree. I'm not making any bones about that. And to win a championship is going to be mega tough. I mean, we all know how hard to race people like Antron Brown are, and Schumacher and so many other teams. Even Brittany Force this year. Like, it's just going to be a brutal run to the championship. Yeah. So for me, I'm just trying to focus on, doing my job, and I'm really looking forward to just trying to get back into the winner's circle at least a couple more times before too long. But as we all know, this sport's tough, as with every other motorsport. So I'm just enjoying the ride, getting to go drive race cars. In what's my favorite motorsport. It's pretty cool.
Richie, you just mentioned having hot racetracks coming up, and I know that you recently mentioned that you're trying to stay as focused as possible and trying to stay as sharp as possible. Doing 4 races in a row will help kind of do that, but knowing that these hot racetracks are coming up, and knowing that you're probably going to have to get on in and out of the gas at some point, what are those is there any way of being able to keep up with that and try to stay sharp for not only leaving on time, but to maybe have to do the occasional pedal fest?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of a drive by the seat of the pants situation when you get into that tire smoking challenge against the other drivers. So there's not a ton you can do to really prepare yourself for it. I mean, we go up to the starting line, every time thinking the car's going to drive right on down there, but you're not always necessarily prepared for tire smoke or tire shake or that kind of stuff. So really, it's just go up there and do your thing, and hopefully you can get to the finish line before the other guy or girl. That's just it with our sport. It's there's not a lot of other preparation you can do with these things.
Hey, Richie, obviously you're not from Mobile, Alabama, and you said a little bit ago you're from Australia. Do you get a chance to go back to Australia and with your family and go to the races and some of the stuff down there? I know Dixon, I just saw somewhere the other day that he was going down to Australia pretty soon to do some racing.
Yeah, actually, I get to travel back there occasionally in our off season. Last time I was in Australia was last November, so it was really neat to take our 18-month-old daughter. Stephanie and I took our daughter for the first time to see family that she hadn't seen before, and there actually wasn't any racing going on at that point in time for me. So I hope that one day I can put a package together and go and compete again in Australia, maybe like what Corey Mack or Larry Dixon does, and get back, to a lot of people that I used to work with and race with over there, and do it all again. But with as busy as our NHRA schedule is, and everything that we have going on here in Indy when we're not racing, it's really tough to find the time to make that big trip. You know, that Europe seems to be a really simple 8-hour track east. You know, but for me, it's it's about 32 hours doorstep to doorstep.
Oh.
So.
That's brutal.
Boy.
Hey, real quick, how many times are we going to see the boss again this year? Your boss, Morgan.
He's doing a total of 8 races this season. I know he's already knocked 2 or 3 of those off the list, so he'll be back out again at least 4 or 5 more times.
Right.
And he's so happy right now, man. They got their new son, Austin, and Austin's doing real well. So, he's content being a father, but I know he's itching to get back in the race car real soon.
Well, there you go. There you have it. So we'll be looking forward to Morgan getting back in the car. We'll be looking forward to Richie Crampton getting back in the winner's circle with that Lucas Oil car. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll look forward to talking to you after a win coming up this year.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Former U.S. Nationals winner Richie Crampton joining us here on the Straight Line. And when we return, we'll talk to one busy dude up in New England. I mean, he is all over the place. If you check him out on the social media, you'll know why. Ron Capps will join us next.
This is the Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. We'll have more for you right after this.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
One final lap in the Daytona 500. Joey Logano has the point. Junior crosses over.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Being there matters. And your United States Navy protects and defends America on the world's oceans. Around the globe, around the clock, Navy ships, submarines, aircraft, and, most importantly, tens of thousands of America's finest young men and women are ready to defend America when piracy threatens global commerce, when disaster strikes, or when called upon by the Commander-in-Chief. Your Navy is there. When it comes to protecting and defending America, being there matters. And America's Navy is already there.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now it's back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Big thanks to Tom McEwen for joining us on today's program, along with Richie Crampton. And joining us right now on the telephone line is maybe the busiest guy in motorsports up in New England this week. And he has been all over doing appearances for his sponsor, Napa. And joining us right now is the 2014 winner at New England Dragway. Ron Capps joins us. Ron, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it, especially during this busy time for you.
Yeah, you bet. How are you guys doing?
Hey, man, doing good. So your Napa guys got to be pretty happy now with Indy 500 win under their belts, and that gets some questions. You know, it's your turn, right?
Wow, that was crazy. It's sort of ironic. I told our Napa guys it was a last minute thing, but I followed Rossi in Formula One, as a test driver, and then him and I traded Twitter messages when he was overseas as a F1 test driver. And I just was proud to follow him and watch him since he was a California guy like me. And I watched him, racing karts and growing up. And then when he lost the deal with F1 and came over to IndyCar with Andretti, we sort of, kept at it and kept talking. And it was only natural. He became a Napa car. To win as a rookie, the Indy 500 was awesome.
Well, tell the people that may not know the story of how you were tracking the Indy 500, because you were kind of busy at the time.
Well, yeah, it was obviously Memorial Day weekend. It's our weekend off, so I'm up in the hills above San Diego at a little NHRA track called Verona, and it's on an Indian reservation, and Del Worsham put together this sort of a last-minute nitro at Verona, they called it, and this nitro cars had never been there before, and it's only an eighth-mile track. So they had some Gary Densham, Worsham, Robert Height was there with his daughter, and we had our kids up there racing junior dragsters. So there was one spot in maybe a 10-foot radius of where I had phone service, and I was standing there trying to get Twitter with about 20 laps to go, the Indy 500, to get my results, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my Twitter, that everybody pulled off, and he had the lead with 1 lap to go, and then, of course, my phone lit up with text messages with everybody saying, my God, the Napa car just won the Indy 500, so it was pretty neat.
Hey, Cap, so tell us, Hagan, obviously your Dodge Chargers are running pretty good with Hagan running 335 miles an hour last weekend. Your car obviously can run as well because we know Ron Tobler can get the tuning part of it done. Tell us, what are you guys doing, and then how is that new change with the NHRA rev limiter going to come into effect with those speeds?
Well, yeah, like you said, the rev limiter, we got the email from NHRA, maybe a few days after the Topeka race with all the big speeds. They lowered the RPM of the rev limiter down to 8,100. That's 8,100. So it's definitely going to affect cars in good conditions when we have the tracks we can run big speed like they did. Not sure about the ET. It may not hurt us in the ET. We'll find out, but we knew it was coming, and it's just they're trying to keep a cap on these big speeds. And, for the fans listening that may not follow NHRA all the time, we don't mind going fast. Right, Doug? It's the slowing down and getting these cars stopped after going 330 miles per hour that's the issue. So NHRA is just trying to keep it safe because some of these tracks have a little shorter shutdown than others, and sometimes it's an issue trying to get a car going 330 miles per hour stopped before you get to the end of the sand trap and then the net.
Yeah, that's a bad feeling when it's coming up pretty fast. And just like you said, I don't think if you asked any of the drivers, none of the drivers would say they're worried about going 330 miles an hour, but it's the safety issues that come into effect at tracks like Pomona and Englishtown and some of the older, shorter tracks.
Yeah, there are some short ones, and like you said, sometimes you hit the chutes and you pull the brake and then you look up and you're already at the finish. I mean, it's scary at some of them, and there's a lot of fans who are really still upset that we're not going quarter mile, and I often tell them it's like shooting the space shuttle up into space and then not having a plan on how to get it back down to Earth. And that's sort of the thing. We love to go 330 miles an hour, but it's keeping the safety and not hurting our drivers, and that's the key, is just getting these things stopped in time.
Ron, with 4 races in a row coming up, how obviously you do a lot of work with Napa and going around the country and doing promotion. How are you preparing for these 4 weekends coming up and staying pretty busy away from family, or do you get a chance to bring some family out with you? Or?
Yeah, I brought my wife. We always come to the New England race early. We're up in actually Maine right now. I'm doing a Napa appearance as we speak. We spend the whole week at Kennebunkport and in Portland, Maine, and then we'll head back down to Boston and then race the race. And we go here, and then we go to Englishtown, which is one of the most historic racetracks on the circuit. Raceway Park there in Englishtown is a huge race. And then we go to Bristol and then to Ohio. So it's very, very different conditions. The NASCAR guys, they're heading to where are they going?
Pocono.
Pocono. And it's funny because we're going to some tracks that are going to be like them going from a 2-mile track to a mile track and then back to a 1.5 miles. And it's sort of what we're going to see in the next few weeks. But to answer your question, Doug, I'm excited because it brings different conditions weather-wise. It brings different conditions track-wise. And I always talk about the Napa know-how I have with my crew chief and my team, Ron Tobler and the guys. And for me, 4 races in a row is you better have your act together. And that I know that we do, and I know that we're prepared for it. And for me, I see a way to make a lot of ground up for points in a short amount of time. And that's the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you are a West Coast guy. They call this nowadays the East Coast swing. So how are you planning on this? Are you staying out here, or you have to go back and forth between the West Coast and the East Coast?
Marty, you're getting a little personal now, aren't you?
Well, you're a West Coast guy.
I'm just messing with you. I'm actually going to go home for a day and turn around and go to Englishtown, and then go home for a day and turn around and go to Ohio.
Oh, man.
So for me, it's it's quick turnaround, but I probably would be smarter staying on the road. But it's, we get a lot of Napa appearances we do before and after races. And again, it's just, I think if you have a team that's ready for the swing of 4 races in a row, sometimes I feel like we talk about it, and then you look at the NASCAR guys, they'll have like 18 in a row or something ridiculous. And I feel like we're sort of complaining about something that that we pale in comparison. But I don't look at it as a bad thing. I think 4 in a row is going to be awesome for our fans, and especially on Fox Network. We're going to have a lot of great racetracks with great scenery and some great races to be seen on Fox.
Oh, yeah, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you at Englishtown. I'll be up there, too, so I'll come by and say hi. Tell us what you think about the new TV deal this year with NHRA, and how's that going with Fox, and how your sponsors and Napa Know-How and all the other ones are liking the new television package.
They're loving it. As you and I know, that the ratings have been way better. I mean, we're talking light years ahead of in the past. They've just done a great job, and it's a new package. It's new angles that they're using with the cameras. It's live TV. We don't have to. The worst part was, and you're on Twitter as well, and some of the social media, is posting something that happened at a race and then having your fans mad at you because you sort of did a spoiler before they could read it and watch the TV show later that night. And in a world today when it's year 2016, I mean, even 10 years ago, if something wasn't live, people don't want to hear about it until they can watch their DVR later. So it's only natural that we have live TV now, and I think that right away took it to another level. So everybody's excited about it. I'm excited about being able to do some Napa fun commercials with Chase Elliott next year and run them on the Fox program, because I know that they're very excited about the TV program as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Chase Elliott, and of course, being your NASCAR teammate or in your corporate teammate, Martin Truex Jr., who was your corporate teammate in the world of NASCAR, just spanked him this weekend in the Coke 600. You've got a lot of friends on that side of the fence. Tell us about that.
Well, that's awesome. Martin, was a great teammate. I got to share with Napa, and that was a big time win. That made a lot of people happy. With Michael Waltrip and some of the guys. But even before that, I posted my Throwback Thursday, I think last week or the week before, of one of the dirt races. And we used to do a lot of them every week with Selzy and I. We'd run out and hook up with Tony Stewart and Casey Kane and Clint Boyer and a lot of those guys. And we'd run the charity dirt races during the week in between our races. And that was some of the funnest. And, of course, I got to race the Prelude to the Dream every year with Tony since the first year he ran that. So I've gotten to be friends with a lot of those guys by racing with them in the dirt and kind of hanging out with them away from our races and away from their races, which they're completely different guys, believe me. You get some of those guys up the Prelude. If you'll remember some of the pictures and the video of how those guys are relaxed and smiling and having a good time that you just don't see at their NASCAR races. So that friendship I built with a lot of those guys is cool to be able to sit and cheer for them when they're racing.
And Ron, last year the performance of the funny cars really took a big jump, and this year it seems like they've kind of taken another big jump. What's your take on that performance jump, and what's that doing to competition and costs and expense? I know you're involved with the Pro Racers Association and everything there, so you've kind of on both sides of the fence. Well,
it's that exhaust whole thing that basically Jimmy Prock kind of woke everybody up by. In a nutshell, he basically leaned the exhaust headers back only a few degrees, and that completely changed the way that funny cars ran, and it moved everybody up. You ran a 3-second run anywhere last year, and you were low ET of the world, and you were in every newspaper and every headline. And now you barely make the top 12 if you don't run a 3-second run. So the performance picked up light years when that happened, and so everybody followed suit, of course. And it wasn't something that was very expensive. That was the cool part. And NHRA has done a great job of not letting people get out of hand spending money. So it's really moved the performance up, and now the side-by-side racing is as close as we've ever seen it. And I have to definitely pull my belts tighter for every run we have, especially coming up Friday night in Epping, and next week in Englishtown. There's going to be nighttime runs on Friday night. It could possibly be your best run ever in your life, so you got to be ready for it.
Your teammate Matt Hagan says that with that change and what they've done with those headers, it's also made these things a little more squirrely, the funny cars, that they're a little bit harder. Not that they weren't hard already, but now that they're even a little bit harder because it takes some of the downforce off. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm more worried about his selfies on Twitter. My God. Holy cow. I got to talk to my teammate Hagan.
Yeah, right.
He won a couple races, and then all of a sudden it's selfie-heaven in the gym and in the sauna. We got to talk to him.
It's like a teenage girl. Yeah.
Don't act like you haven't seen him either.
Yeah, no.
Everybody's been sending me pictures. I had to stop following him for a little while. I got to talk to him this week.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Really good idea.
Oh, man. Well, Ron Capps, good luck this weekend coming up in Epping. Hope you guys have a great time up there and enjoy some of the seafood, and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, lots of lobster rolls, Doug.
Yeah, that's good, man. Lobster rolls.
I might weigh a little bit more when I get there Friday. It's okay though.
Yeah. All right. That's the driver of the Napa Dodge for Don Schumacher Racing. Joining us here on the Straight Line, that is Ron Capps. And when we return, we will wrap up another great edition of the show.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More right after this.
If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo-Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Looking for winged sprint car coverage? MRN has you covered with Winged Nation. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, it's Winged Nation presented by Hercules Tire on MRN.com. Thursdays, check out the Winged Nation Weekend Preview podcast presented by Hefner Racing Products. Then on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern, watch Winged Nation presented by Sage Fruit on MAV TV. MRN's Winged Nation, your source for all things winged sprint cars.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
I feel like experience kind of outweighs youth.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Kyle Busch driving for his life right now.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
Our lives are so much different than what people may think they are.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now here's Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Big thanks to John for Ron Capps for joining us on today's show. And as he said, he was a busy dude, so he took about 15 minutes out of his time with
You'll have
people.
Some fun eating some lobster rolls up there.
Yeah, yeah. It's, with the people from Napa, obviously.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on the Straight Line. He talked about the rev limiter. And we've talked about this as being a big deal for the Pro Stock guys, because they brought a rev limiter into the fold and set it at 10,500, I believe it was. And boy, the Pro Stock guys just absolutely were on fire about that. But people forget that there's a rev limiter also on the fuel cars. So
and there has been for a long time,
right?
I'm thinking about 10 years ago is when NHRA put a rev limiter on the top fuel cars. So it's been in place for a while. And when they first came out, top fuel cars and funny cars, anything with nitro on them is a little bit different than rev limiting a Pro Stock car. They just cut some spark out and it's no problem. Well, top fuel cars is a little bit different. You cut the spark out, then you put the spark back in and they go boom. Like really big.
Yeah.
So they've had some playing around. Dave Leahy is a company called Electromotion, has worked a lot with MSD Ignition, and they do a lot of the electronics for the top fuel cars, not just MSD, but Electromotion, because there's a lot of technology that goes into that and being able to know when to turn the spark back on at the right time so it doesn't blow up.
Yeah. And along with that, once you start dialing it back down, is there going to be maybe a little bit of time to figure that out?
Well, what I wonder is if they are going to make the cars have the rev limiter on at the starting line, or if they kick those in going down the track, because I know a lot of the teams' engines rev up over 8,100 RPM when they hit the throttle at the starting line. So I think what they're doing is they make the rev limiter kick in at like a second into the run or 2 seconds into the run. I think. I'll have to verify that, but I'm pretty certain that that's what they're doing. But 8,100 RPM is probably, and it depends a lot on the aerodynamics on the car, but it's probably around 330 miles an hour. So it's not going to slow the cars down necessarily, but it's going to keep them from going a whole lot faster.
Yeah, and and as Cap said, we're just trying to rein this in because there are some places that if you want to get that thing stopped.
Sure. Well, and just think about it. If they were running a quarter mile now, how much? What would the speeds be? Typically, they were about 15 miles an hour short.
Right.
You know, when we went from a quarter mile to 1,000 foot, the cars lost about 15 miles an hour. Okay, well, think about that. 335 miles an hour plus 15, 350 miles an hour in the quarter mile. 350 miles an hour. That's fast, man. And that's not a long ways to stop the cars. And so what a lot of people don't remember is why Big Daddy Don Garlits quit racing, why Joe Amato quit racing. It separates their retinas in their eyes.
Yeah.
You pull the parachutes on the car, and it pulls about 7 Gs negative and tries to throw your eyes out of the front of your head. So that's a problem. And what do you do to combat that? Well, the only thing you can do is close your eyes. So when you're going 300-something miles an hour, you don't want to close your eyes to get the car stopped. That's pretty silly.
I don't see what the big deal is.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I hit the loud pedal on one of those things, I'd be sitting there with teeth clenched and eyes closed and open, and it's going straight.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm here, and not at the drag strip. 4 in a row coming up. Going to Epping, we're going to Englishtown, we're going to Bristol, and then we're going to Norwalk.
As a racer, I think that's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I raced every NHRA race, every IHRA race, 4 in a row. It was like piece of cake. I mean, we're racers. That's what we do. And
Right.
Cap's kind of hinted at that. I mean, where was he last weekend on his weekend off? He was at the races. So I don't think that really bothers a lot of people. It's hard on the teams, though. The teams do a lot of work and a lot of traveling. And, NASCAR teams, we cry and whine about that a little bit. But guess what? They've got several trucks and different crews that drive their cars to the races. It's a whole different thing. In drag racing, it's the guys that are working on the car. They're typically driving the trucks and trailers to the races, setting them up, and doing all that. So it's a whole different organization in how it works. It's not, over here at Hendricks, I'm sure they've already got the cars and trucks and trailers ready to go for next weekend. Much less this weekend. I mean, it's a whole different thing, and the budgets are they're about 1-0 of difference in between those budgets, and we're not talking, we're talking big numbers here.
That's exactly right. Also, on a drag racing team, you're going through a lot more parts and pieces than you are on a NASCAR team. So keeping those fresh supplies of parts is important. When you're on the road, it's a little bit harder to be able to refresh that.
They run the same car all weekend, the same engine, where I did see an interesting tweet from Wendy Venturini a couple of days ago. It was their NASCAR typical tire bill in a weekend is $30,000. I didn't really ever think about that, but that's a pretty big bill. I think the biggest bill I ever had drag racing was probably about a $10,000 tire bill running one car. I'm sure Schumacher's tire bill, but that's pretty considerable. And the NASCAR Cup engine, probably, I'm guessing off the top of my head, they're probably about $100,000 a weekend for an engine, for a top running engine. So, put the numbers in your head a little bit like that, and they add up pretty quick. So it's a little bit different deal, but that's still a lot of traveling, a lot of parts and pieces, a lot of work. Big deal going down the road. 4 in a row. They're gonna. As Cap said, that's a short time that they can either gain a lot of ground or lose a lot of ground.
Absolutely. Real quick before we leave, get well wishes to Shirley Muldowney. Lots of good news coming out of this week, and hopefully her recovery will be very, very quick. So for everybody involved, for Doug, for Robbie Mays, for Daryl, I'm Marty. We will talk to you next week on The Straight Line.
You've been listening to The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tune in again next Thursday at noon Eastern on MotorRacingNetwork.com and the MRN app. The Straight Line is the show for drag racing fans and is brought to you by Hercules Tires. This program is also available on demand at the MRN.com Media Center, or you can download it through iTunes or Stitcher. The Straight Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.